this pattern, this habit of meal prepping that we find is conducive for our health. And to be honest with you, taking an entire weekend and cooking 10, 12 hours a day on a Saturday and a Sunday to then just be able to pop stuff in the oven or microwave, and you're doing that for 6+ weeks, that you don't have to cook every single night. That time's better spent with my wife and my daughter. So it's kind of a win all the way around for us.
Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us today and meeting with us remotely to talk about meal prepping and sharing with us how you and your family do somewhat of a lost art of meal prepping in the fast-paced United States, and how that's going to really set you up for success, and something we're all going to need to really learn how to do as we're kind of going into some uncharted territory here in the next couple weeks. So how long have you been meal prepping? Can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like for you?
Yeah, so I've been meal prepping consistently now for about 6 months. Been doing it on and off for a couple of years, but really more consistently in the last 6 months. And that was primarily due to our health, mine and my wife's. So finding recipes that worked for us that fit into our weight loss goals and our health goals. But then obviously with what's happening today, with the coronavirus, it kind of stepped it up to a different level for us and helped with our preparedness.
So you said you started doing this for health reasons. How long ago did you start doing this, and kind of what did that look like for you? How does it work specifically for you?
So for me, primarily, I know there's a lot of different diets and fads out there. For us, it boils down to caloric intake. So we actually use an app called MyFitnessPal, which allows you to track what you're consuming. The cool thing about the app is that you're able to scan the barcodes of the items that you are using and say how much it is that's going into it, and then it lets you build out recipes. So we basically just started looking at, what should we be eating every day? How much should we be working out? How many calories do we need to intake to get to our weight loss goals that we have? And then started doing some research online about what's out there for meal prep. There's a few different companies and websites that have some good, easy, and free suggestions for people. So we started following those, and that kind of led to us just doing this consistently.
So what does that process look like? Is this something you guys do every weekend, or kind of what's the process look like for meal prepping? Talking to somebody that isn't super familiar with that.
Yeah. So for someone who's just getting into it, I recommend starting with a website called skinnytaste.com. The individual who runs that puts out a free weekly meal prep guide that also helps you build out a grocery list. And then it can just be going ahead and you can cook every night. You can cook once a week. For myself and my wife, I guess you could say we're a little bit more extreme than that. So when I do meal prep, I do it over the course of a week, and that sets us up for about 2 months.
Okay.
So I fill a deep freezer with meal prep containers, basically top to bottom. And then we have a few other things that we do as far as things to kind of spice it up a little bit so that we're not always eating out of the same 5 or 6 recipes for 8 straight weeks. So things like burgers, brats, stuff that you can easily freeze and just pick up a pack of buns on the way home, and then you're able to kind of have some variety in your diet.
Yeah. So do you, I guess, as we're in this uncharted territory, what are some concerns that are kind of going through your head as it relates to meal prepping, and kind of how are you feeling you're set up for that today?
One of the big concerns I have, so primarily almost all of our meal prep goes into a deep freezer in our basement, which of course is tied to the electrical grid. So if that grid were to ever go down, that's something that it's going to be open the door quickly, grab something and close it, trying to preserve that temperature in there. That did lead to us doing a little bit more, and me doing a little bit more research into just kind of looking at what recipes can I put together that are still health conscious, aren't going to be too high in sodium. So picked up a lot of like rice, canned vegetables, even frozen vegetables, which, even if the freezer kicks out, they can still stay cold for a while in there. So just kind of thinking ahead to things that we'll be able to cook in the moment that still meet our nutritional value without having to necessarily rely on a freezer or a fridge.
Yeah. So Mike, you seem like you're the type of guy that really thinks ahead. So what is your background? What is that kind of, how is that something that you just picked up over time, or is it something that you kind of were taught, or kind of, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, kind of a mix of a few different things. So I was in the Navy for 5 years, with a military police unit for about 13 months of that. There I was introduced to a couple of guys that you might call preppers.
Okay.
It's not their entire basement's filled or they had a bunker, but they kind of put it in my head that you need to have some stuff on hand. And then while I was in, there was the government shutdown, and there was the question of whether or not the troops would be getting a paycheck or not.
Yeah.
That really kind of opened my eyes to like, wow, you got to have some stuff on hand. So then getting out of there, come and work at the company I'm at right now, Delta Defense. A lot of like-minded people like that as well. A lot of people who want to think forward. Here is where I also became a firearms instructor. So I'm one of our national training counselors as well. So just that mindset of preparedness, of avoidance of people who can do you harm, but also planning ahead and making sure that you're in the best possible state to be able to live your day-to-day life safely and in a healthy manner. Tie that all together, and it's kind of led to this this pattern, this habit of meal prepping that we find is conducive for our health. And to be honest with you, taking an entire weekend and cooking 10, 12 hours a day on a Saturday and a Sunday to then just be able to pop stuff in the oven or microwave, and you're doing that for 6+ weeks, that you don't have to cook every single night. That time's better spent with my wife and my daughter. So it's kind of a win all the way around for us.
Yeah. So how are you? So you have a family. So how are you guys thinking through the current scenario? What can you share with us about kind of how you're thinking about working through this and staying positive, and kind of where's your head at with everything?
Yeah, as far as staying positive, I will say that I'm pretty blessed with the company I work at. They really invest into their people, into having a healthy, positive mindset. So over the course of the last 5 years, I've kind of changed a lot in that way. I may have come out a little hard and cynical from the surface. So I've softened up a little bit, and having a little girl helps with that as well. But my wife and I, it's all about communicating openly, sharing fears with each other. But then also, like I had shared before, having that group of people who's like-minded.
Mm-hmm.
I have a few different friends that we've talked, and if things continue to get worse, that we make plans together. They also meal prep and prep and stock up. So it's kind of one of those things where in the curriculum we actually teach, when you talk about avoidance, we talk about letting people, if people want to say that you're maybe a little paranoid, a little over prepared, that's okay. I would rather be over prepared and be wrong than be under prepared and find out that I really wish I had done more.
Yeah.
So yeah, just kind of having that mindset that, what, we are as prepared as we're going to be. We have good communication, good love for each other, good family ties, good support system of friends, and we'll all get through this together. That community, really, it's the community mindset and supporting each other.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you're doing or thinking about doing as it relates to trying to stay connected with that community as we kind of go into this period now where we're going to be kind of forced to, shelter in place, or, I think that it's being called safer at home. So how are you thinking about that? How are you feeling you're going to kind of stay connected with that community that you got?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. I run a team of people who operate with digital customer service. But I'm actually not a huge social media guy. I will say that's probably gone up a little bit in the last week or two. So a little bit more of using like FaceTime and video chat, of being able to connect with my parents, make sure they're connecting with their granddaughter, talking with my siblings, and even my sister, she's in Colorado. So just kind of making sure that we make time for that. But it's definitely more digital communication. It's not quite the same, but as an extrovert, I really need that vocal communication with people. So whether it's video or phone, it's just really making sure that we're purposefully connecting with our friends and our family.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you could share with us as it relates to, someone that may be starting down this journey in a position where they're kind of at a disadvantage, where they may or may not have a full fridge of food, and they're really thinking about, how do I need to make a go at this for the next period of time where I don't really know what the expiration date on that time frame is?
Yeah, if you're in a position where you can um, do a run to the store, obviously be careful, use social distancing. If you're not feeling well, don't go do that. But if you have the ability to go do that, just doing a run of dried beans and rice and vegetables, and if you have the freezer space, a little bit of meat, um, chicken or ground turkey, something that's a little more lean and has a little less fat. Just kind of goes a little further when you're cooking it then. But if you don't have that ability, it's just more of, I need to go through my cabinets and figure out what I have. Sometimes just going in and looking at things that you feel would piece together well, and then literally just type those into Google, those ingredients plus recipe. Those will pop up recipes and things that you're able to make and store. If you do wind up doing a run to the store, I definitely have a plan in place. For instance, when I go in, I already have my list. I go somewhere that I am frequenting normally before all this happened, so I know where things are. My mindset is to get in and get out. Not that other people haven't been kind. Most people have been rather friendly, but you can't control other people. You can only control what you're doing. So just going in, having that mission mindset of like, I'm going in, I'm getting these items, I'm checking out, and I'm getting home safely. It's kind of keeping your head on a swivel and taking care of yourself. The only other thing I would say if you're going to start meal prepping is season your food. It's something that's easily overlooked. And I can actually tell you, when we first started meal prepping, when you're cooking in bulk, you almost kind of overthink, like, oh, I don't want to put in that much salt, or I don't want to put in that much of this because it might be too much. So taste as you cook. Make sure you're putting in enough seasoning, because if you cook 12 to 15 containers of a particular thing and it's extremely bland, that's going to be the last thing sitting there for you to eat, because you're not going to want it. Learned that lesson the hard way with a couple of recipes I did one time. And yeah, I cooked kind of a half a batch of meal prep for my wife because she didn't really care for what I had made. And I ate the bland stuff for a while and seasoned it after I reheated it.
Yeah, I bet. I need you probably are just picking from that one pile at the end.
Yeah.
Yep, I can relate to that. That sounds that doesn't sound fun, but you don't make the mistake again.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, Mike, I really do appreciate your time and sharing with us your thoughts and knowledge on this, and talking about being mission minded and kind of staying connected as we're working through this transition here.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much for having me on.
Awesome.
Thanks again for watching. We really appreciate your time, and we hope you guys are getting something useful and informative out of these features that we're putting together. We really believe right now is a time for all of us to serve each other. We believe here at Sterling that we're called to serve families that are going through a period of transition, and we have to pick up the shield and the sword of what's the best interest of others. We all need to do that in this period. We need to look to our neighbors, look to people that are in need, and really understand what they need. If you have an elderly neighbor, make sure you get in touch with them, call them. If you have someone in your network of individuals that may need help getting food, make sure you're reaching out to them. Give a friend a call. Everybody that is in our society is being asked to isolate. We can remove some of that feeling of isolation by connecting with one another. Families that are in this together, don't spend every waking moment looking at the news and just getting involved with everything that's so dire. Spend time playing board games, spend time enjoying each other's presence. Because we will get through this together. This too shall pass, and we will come out stronger and better than we were before. We look forward to continuing to bring you content. We hope you get value out of this as we journey through this period of transition together.